Oh, we're live. Is abortion black genocide? We're going to return to the land, bringing back agriculture. We're live. I'm Armstrong Williams, and you can tell already it's hot today. Join us for this live discussion. And welcome to the broadcast. The topic today, black genocide. Genocide, it's a very strong word. Population control. Why women have abortion? Well, we know why women have abortions, because they can't deal with the pregnancy. Sometimes they don't want to have the baby. Sometimes it's incest. Sometimes the mother's life is threatened, and sometimes they're raped. Well, our guests have a different take. You know, it's interesting, in all the shows that we've done, I've not had a discussion on the issue of abortion. I had all of you on the radio show recently, on our Sirius 126, and I've never seen such a hostile, but towards the end, a very agreeable environment. So obviously, we wanted to take this topic to live television and have this discussion about abortion. Let me introduce you to my guests. Jacqueline Hawkins. Ms. Hawkins, welcome. You look wonderful.
Thank you.
You're Director of Outreach for the abortion, what is it, abortionnno.org.
I am the Director of Minority Outreach for the Center for Bioethical Reform, which runs abortionnno.org.
Okay. Dr. Fletcher Armstrong, you got some strength in your name, brother.
Well, yeah, I like your name too.
You got some strength. Southern Regional Director, Pro-Life, oncampus.org.
Well, that's the Southeast website. I'm the Southeast Director of the Center for Bioethical Reform, and our website is abortionnno.org.
Okay, well, I'm going to get this one right. Dr. Clenard Childress, Jr. is assistant to the National Director of Learn Life Education and Resource Network and founder of blackgenocide.org. Do you have any compassion for someone who decides to have an abortion because of rape, incest, and the mother's life is in danger?
Yes.
Describe that compassion.
Well, especially in very difficult situations. But I should say, of all abortions that take place in America, of the 1.2 that roughly happen each year, less than 2% are for life of the mother, rape, and incest. But for those special cases, we have concern and empathy for those women. Those are very hard situations, and we want to help them through that situation with other alternatives.
You know, black genocide is a very strong word. When you think of genocide, you think about the Middle Passage of slavery, you think about the Holocaust. Help us understand genocide as it relates to black kids being aborted. Somebody, anybody.
Well, it's targeting the African American community.
Who's targeting the African American community?
The abortion industry, led by Planned Parenthood, which accounts for 20% of all abortions in the country, and has an ideology of eugenics. It is not a conspiracy theory. You can actually Google most of what we're going to tell you and find it to be the fact. It's the deliberate systemic targeting that is very disturbing. And when our government is a partaker of it, thank God for this president, to be quite honest with you, that is trying to undo that. He's the first one in a long list where $545 million was going to the entity Planned Parenthood, whose major business is abortion in the black community.
Whoa. Okay, now, so let's slow down here. You actually believe that Planned Parenthood's mission is to have as less black people on this planet as possible?
We do not want word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. Margaret Sanger, the founders of Planned Parenthood.
They want to exterminate the Negro population. Okay,
That's what Margaret Sanger said.
Margaret Sanger has been dead a long time ago.
It's still in the
philosophy. But that's why that organization exists. It was to wipe out black people.
Okay, we need an education here. Tell me why. You know, because I happen to be black too, so I gotta really listen to this conversation. Yeah. Please tell me why Planned Parenthood's mission is to exterminate black people.
First, we want to say white America and black America have always been pitted against each other by white elitists. And they want less people of color. That can be documented very easily. And it's an ideology. For a lot of other people, it's money. It's very lucrative business. I often say if abortion was not lucrative, it would not be legal. But the ideology, as it is here and abroad, is to target people of color. NSSM, produced by Kissinger, and when President Nixon basically states that they want less of the black population in case they wanted to take the resources. Oh, is that a conspiracy theory? No, look it up. It's right in the memorandum. So this is something that's been passed down Democrat as well as Republican. Democrat as well as Republican. And I'll say it again, I'm really refreshed by this president administration to try to undo most of that. But it is the deliberate targeting of people of color. 88% of all Planned Parenthood's abortuaries are in African American neighborhoods. If you want to target a specific community, you go to where that community is. So the data shows that our claims are not hyperbole from radical rants from a reverend, religious right reverend. It's a sociological fact.
Essentially, they said after slavery, if we can't own them, what will we do with them? And their answer was, we'll just kill them.
Here's what, listen, I'm not going to take issue with what may have happened 300 years ago. But for me, in seeing the progress of this country and humanitarian of who we are and what we've become, even I, Dr. Armstrong, find it hard to wrestle with the fact that you think there's a diabolical movement that Planned Parenthood exists for the slowly, methodical, deliberate extermination of black people.
Well, I'm not saying that everybody in that organization has that point of view, but if you look at what
So what are you saying?
Look at what Pastor Childers said, and look at the statistics. The abortion rate among black women is very, very high. It's very, very high. It's much higher. It's like 30% of all abortions, 35% of all abortions are in the black community, where only 11% of women are black. So the abortion rate among African Americans is very high, and I think part of that is an antipathy to. We want to make the society more wealthy, and we have too many poor people, and abortion is a way to. If you get rid of somebody, then you don't have to worry about how we're going to make lives better.
So
for
what
these
about the
people.
white babies, the Latino babies, and other babies that were aborted? What do you attribute that to?
Well, that's the ideology. It wasn't.
They're not trying to exterminate them?
African American.
I'm talking about when the babies are white, because I think there are more white babies aborted. So what do you attribute it to?
I attribute that to the classism, because often they're
Why
in the
not
same-
race?
Well, it goes beyond race.
Well, why can't
for
this go
some.
beyond race?
It goes beyond race for those who want it lucratively. They don't care what color the baby is. But
now you're contradicting yourself.
No.
Yes, you are.
Ideologically, the core elitists who run the agenda targets African Americans. There's no question about that. So the fact of the matter is, it's almost like collateral damage. And you got to also understand that normally they say these will be poor whites or whites.
So they see poor whites and poor blacks as the same?
Many do.
Oh, so the issue is poor, class, not race.
That's the same reason why Dr.
No. The issue is class, not race.
It doesn't have to be just one
You're
thing.
hesitating on me.
No, I'm not hesitating.
Yes, you
I'm
are.
trying to give you an explanation. When Dr. King,
No. I don't want to hear Dr. King's opinion. I want to hear your opinion.
my opinion is, I said, in the elitists at the very top, who's making the decisions, it's about color.
Okay, you know what? I need a break. I really need a break. I almost need a drink. That's the Stanley Cup. I forgot about the Stanley Cup. We won the Stanley Cup this weekend, the Capitals. It was wonderful. And I got so lost in this conversation. Are you as confused as I am? I want to find out, when we come back, what role do these poor people and these black women who have these abortions, what role do they play in this so-called genocide? Are they just willingly victims? Are they manipulated? Are they mind altered somewhere? How do they get to go into this assembly line to follow this process of this genocide? I'm Armstrong Williams. This is about to get really interesting up in here, and we'll be back. You really
As things move fast in the district, Industrial Bank wants to help make sure you have the perfect place to call home. Check out our website or visit your local branch to learn about our first home buyer programs, purchase loans, and refinancing programs available to you and your family. Let Industrial Bank help you secure the best place for your next big moment.
You know, it has really been a long time since I felt my heart pulsating through my shirt. You know, I used to do this when I was young. I've become much calm, much more relaxed. I think you should be very responsible on TV and the information that you put out. And so you really got my blood going today. I'm so glad, Devin, you decided to show up.
I made it.
Devin is my
made it.
Howard Stern special correspondent. You've been listening to this conversation.
I have.
Your thoughts?
I think I'm unfailingly and unwaveringly pro-choice. You know that. We disagree on that. I'm pro-choice to a degree. I think there's a time and a place when it is an appropriate option. I think, I'm sure most of the people here would totally agree with me that it's being used. I think abortion's being abused. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think the larger conversation is, what do we need to do as a country to, whether it be largely education, so that we're not using it as a form of birth control?
But do you actually believe that it's a system to exterminate black people from the planet?
I think if the numbers that are being thrown about are accurate, then it's certainly something you need to question. Right?
Mm-hmm. So, how are...
And go ahead, sir.
Oh, go ahead.
To be clear on the numbers, 1,786 African American children are killed each day by abortion.
1,000?
786.
Almost 2,000?
So 2,000.
A day?
52% of all African Americans' pregnancies end with an abortion.
52?
52%. There are cities where there's more children being aborted than born. And since 1973, over 20 million missing in the African American community. That was all by design.
Well, that's shocking, by the way.
But so I guess the bigger question is why, right? You can't treat the problem, whether you want to call it extermination of black people or just overuse of abortion. Why is it happening? Like why specifically the African American community? Are they being targeted, or
are they willing participants?
Yeah.
Well, I think people are being lied to. Women are being lied to about who the baby is. They're being told that it's not really a human being, it's a blob of tissue. They're lied to about how violent abortion is. When people see abortion on a video of abortion on our website, abortionno.org, people instantly know that it's a violent act. And the abortion industry admits when people see our video, it hurts their business.
But I have to push back before we go on, because it depends on the video and the type of abortion. I mean, if you're showing a late second or third trimester abortion, yeah, it's going to be graphic. But if you take the pill to cause essentially a really heavy period, I'm sorry, that's not going to be as graphic. It depends on what you show.
It may not be graphic, but the humanity of the victim is still the same.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
And the baby is just as dead.
But I think if you show a video of a girl that's 6 or 8 weeks along taking a pill and going home and having a long weekend to recover is very different than some of the other types of abortion that are happening to later term fetuses. I'm not questioning the humanity, but I think the video that you show...
In our pictures, in our still pictures of abortion that we display routinely, almost all of them are first trimester aborted baby imagery. And people don't want that imagery to be seen. The abortion industry tries to hide that all the time. They don't care if we hold up signs that have words on them, but they don't want us to show pictures because they want to lie to people and say it's just a blob of tissue, it's not a baby, abortion is not an act of violence. They want to convince people that they should be having sex as teenagers. Planned Parenthood sex education programs are widely known to be more encouraging kids to have sex as much as helping kids not be pregnant, but they are encouraging kids to have sex.
Well, let me tell you what bothers me about this conversation. The numbers are
horrifying.
I mean, scary.
But why?
But let me tell you why. Because it seems as though Planned Parenthood, if I'm following this narrative, has found an industry. This is about business for them. This is about money, where they exploiting innocent teenagers and innocent parents and making them believe that you can have this procedure and there will be no emotional after effects.
And also fertility after
fertility,
effects.
yes.
Because I don't know, and you guys will certainly know more of the numbers on this, but the more times you receive an abortion, there's a significant correlation with a decrease in your ability to get pregnant later on in life when you are intending to.
And not only that, but there's an increase in the chance that your next baby, the one that you want,
Could be-
the one will be born prematurely and could have cerebral palsy and other birth defects associated with prematurity.
There's breast cancer and other.
But
negative
just
effects.
for my,
And the point I was making is that I don't know any woman, I've talked to many women who, even for the best reasons, they're traumatized and emotionally void for the rest of their life. They still cry about that child 30 and 40 years later.
Oh, of course
it
they
doesn't
do.
end there.
They were
Are they
lied to.
prepared for this?
They were lied to about abortion. They were lied to about what it would do to them. They were pressured. In many cases, women are pressured to have sex, and then when they have sex by irresponsible and predatory men, okay, and then they have sex, then they get pregnant, and then they're coerced to have abortions. The Elliott Institute says that as many as 60% of abortions are coerced. Women feel coerced in some way. Mark Crutcher at the Life
Dynamics.
Life Dynamics says that abortion is something done by men to women for the benefit of men.
Listen, I get all that. What do you say to young women and mothers listening to this show right now and they're on the cusp of having one of these abortions? How do you dissuade them?
I would say don't do it. This is a road you do not want to go down, because there really is, there's healing after abortion, but still it's one of those things where you will never remove that scar. And that's really not a road you want to go down. There are other entities that will help you, pregnancy resource centers. I think everybody on the staff of CBR, Center for Bioethical Reform, has had some part in pregnancy resource center work. When I was in grad school, I used to volunteer at a pregnancy resource center, and we would spend afternoons just thinking, how else can we help women? We do this, we do this, we do this. What other programs can we implement to help these women in these crisis situations? There are people out there who want to help these women avoid abortion. There are people out there who want to adopt these babies. There are other alternatives, and no matter how hard it is, there are people who can help you. If somebody's forcing you into having an abortion, find somebody who can help you, because you don't want to go down that road.
Let
What
me
about
add
the
to that.
depression?
Depression, well, that's another thing. There's depression, there's anxiety, there's drinking, alcoholism, drugs.
Yes.
There's all these negative effects after abortion. And a lot of times, according to my coworker, who's not here, but she was raped and had an abortion afterwards. She had all of these side effects from the abortion, but she didn't realize it because she had been lied to, told, oh, it's fine, have an abortion. Her minister told her, go ahead, have an abortion, God's okay with it. So she's like, okay, God's okay with it. So when she has depression and post-traumatic stress disorder and all these different things, she's wondering, well, what's going on with me? Why am I so upset? And it wasn't until she went to her counselor for several sessions that the person's like, wait a minute, anywhere in there, did you have an abortion? And she's like, well, yeah, but that has nothing to do with it. It's like, yeah, that has everything to do with it. And she says that the rape was already traumatic, but she was an innocent victim in that. The abortion, even though she was not aware of what was going on, she still asked for that act of violence against her own child. So the abortion compounded the trauma of the rape. And today, over 20 years later, I believe it's 20 years later, she still suffers from that trauma.
And
May I?
we're going to take a break. This is a really serious matter here. I mean, listen, if it's not genocide, it is certainly understood what the outcome would be. There's no way that these number of young kids are being aborted at this record number in any community. It is just an outrage. It is a crisis. In fact, this is an industry. It's a big industry.
Yeah.
And we'll be back. Very interesting conversation during the break between Devin and the pastor. Please.
Yeah, I would love to ask a question. I appreciate you being
Oh,
a part of this
absolutely.
conversation. So, and your initial statement was that you were pro-choice, and I can understand why you would be from your position. But you said in some cases, or when. So I would like to ask you as a doctor, when for you?
When do I think it's appropriate?
When do you think it's appropriate, and when do you don't think it's appropriate?
Sure, I think that's a great question. I think and I heard the when you guys were talking about percentages, I think if there's a risk to the mother's life, no question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that as, I think you have to lesser of two evils. If there's I had a friend who disagreed with me, and his mother had a miscarriage, and he had 4 siblings, and he said my mom would have liked to live and would have given the baby.
We don't disagree with that.
No, I know, but my thought was, well, what about the 4 other kids that are now going to be motherless?
So
I think so obviously
answer your
miscarriage is
question?
different. But I think if there's a risk to the mother's life, if there's significant health issues with the child, I don't see why anyone is waiting past the first trimester. If you're responsible enough to have sex, then you should know if you're pregnant.
So it's okay in the first trimester, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So 3 months in, the first day of the 4th month, you can kill, but the last day of the 3rd month you can't.
Yeah.
Or the other way around.
Yeah, or the other end. Although I think with some of the health issues, sometimes those aren't found out until later. I think that's a totally separate issue.
And the mother wrestles with that later. At what point from the 31st or the 30th to the 1st did this child not be a human?
I think we get this, by the way.
Yeah.
This
I
is
think it's
this is what we need to
Mm-hmm.
get. How do we change this culture of abortion? That is the question.
You asked the question, what do we say to a woman who's thinking about an abortion? I say, find out what it is. Go to abortionno.org, look at the video, and more than that, or just as importantly, if there's anyone in your life pressuring you to have that abortion, make them watch it too. Make them look at it.
But I think it should start before that.
But Devin, you know what? We sit here and talk about women as if this is their problem, and we never give any kind of responsibility, a role to the men.
We do.
I do agree with you on that. I think it's a complicated conversation because it's the woman's body that's carrying the child and so on and so forth. But 2 people made that baby.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So, and I don't know how to implement that in terms of the discussion and if you're going to have a pro-choice conversation, the decision making. But I think, why are women the ones that are being manipulated and going through the process without all of the facts and all of the information and being allowed to make? Why aren't the men being held accountable?
And
And having some, and what if the guy, I mean, I would imagine the statistics show that men would probably opt out, or many would. But what if the man wants to keep the child and the woman doesn't?
That's right.
I mean, that child is 50%
that is
someone
often
else's.
the
does
case.
happen.
Really, I'm so surprised.
But
Yeah.
that does happen. But I'll tell you that men are irresponsible and selfish.
Yes. Well, I mean, to women
It's because
can be
then it reflects back on the
On the
mothers that are
culture.
raising them.
But
Right.
the-
So
It
our,
also-
our
It's
message,
a
our
culture.
message,
sorry.
Yeah.
our message is to men and women. This is what abortion is. This is what it does.
Yeah.
And let's look at it from the standpoint of reality, not mythology.
And I'd like to just interject, kind of off topic, but boys need fathers. Boys need fathers to tell them how to be men and how to treat women as men. A lot of these guys, they have this mentality that, oh, being a man is going after sexual conquest and sowing my wild oats and getting whatever I want. That's not what manhood is. That's malehood, but it's not manhood. And these men,
that's animalhood.
Exactly. These boys, these adult boys are going around playing their video games. Nothing wrong with video games, but they're so invested in their video games, their fantasy life, and their porn that they're going to girls, getting them pregnant, and say, like, what do you mean I have to take responsibility for my actions? Nobody took responsibility for me, so why should I have to do that? So it stems back to the home.
Listen, I think the president should defund Planned Parenthood.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Absolutely, there's no question.
Well, I think as someone who's, like I said, I'm pro-choice. I think if I'm going to be pro-choice and I'm going to let you make the choice, you should have to pay for it. Why should I have to pay for it as a citizen who didn't make the choice to have sex irresponsibly? Rape obviously muddies that conversation, but I think fundamentally, if it's your choice, great. But you're responsible for it now.
The word choice is so funny to me because the child doesn't choose to die, but
Certainly.
someone says choice all the time. Very little choice is given to the child.
How do we change this culture?
Well, I think, yeah,
and
that's
time
the
that we
bigger
allow?
conversation.
Please, come out and just
We
address
go
that.
out into the public square, we have pictures of abortion, usually first trimester. We show these pictures in large photo displays on college campuses in the public square so that people see that A, the preborn is a human being, and B, abortion works by decapitation and dismemberment, most outside of, the abortion pills. So that's what we do. We go to the public square and we say, hey, if you're okay with this, well, there's not a whole lot we can do to stop you. But if you're not okay with what you see in this picture, and we get a lot of people who say, hey, I am not okay with this. I'm not going to abort. I'm not going to push my girlfriend to abort. I'm going to not encourage my friends to do that. I might vote a different way. That's how we change the culture.
Here's what bothers me, is that what you're really doing is exploiting the ignorance and the lack of education and the lack of exposure to the poor. It's just what it is. I mean, it's just the worst kind of exploitation. They really believe that these people are ignorant and have no idea.
I think you're making a good point, but I think the larger question that we're still not addressing and we don't have time to address
Maybe they don't have an answer for it, David.
is showing all of those things, it's too late.
Well,
Do you know what I mean? You have to
What do
start
we do before it happens?
Right,
Yes.
Well, you do what Planned Parenthood does. You go into the classroom.
yeah.
We're not allowed in the
How
classroom.
are they in the classroom?
They are in the classroom with
What?
the family health program.
Planned Parenthood?
Absolutely.
Sex ed.
Encouraging abortion?
Yes.
It's the same thing. I forgot the gentleman's name. He said how he would transform, Dewey said he would transform America through the educational system. I mean, it's not really a big question mark how to do it. Put us in the classrooms, things would drastically
To balance
change.
out what they're being taught.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, that needs to happen.
Yes.
And I'm absolutely certain that's something Betsy DeVos believes in. So they start in the classroom. It begins to make sense. The government allows them in the classroom to sell their agenda.
And they're working outside with the abortuaries and women's health. That's not
And they
women's
do it in the
health.
name of health, Devin.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. I think
Yeah, that's
There was a book written several years ago called Blood Money by Carol Everett. She ran abortion clinics, and she talked about how she used her access to classrooms, middle and high school classrooms, to generate more business for her abortion clinic.
Oh.
Her goal was to get in there and do the sex education, and if she could get a child active during her middle school or high school years, she counted on 3 abortions per child that she
Dear
could
Lord.
get to be involved actively.
and the main
in
goal,
sex.
she said, we have to
Blood money.
circumvent the parent. We have to take the parent out of the
That's
decision-making process.
exactly what's going on.
That's what's going on.
That's what
And in
she did,
communities
and that's
where
what Planned Parenthood
there
did.
already is, like you were kind of saying, a lack of father figures, et cetera.
Yes, that's a problem.
Yeah.
You know, what
You're teaching a bunch of irresponsible school children to do essentially
Adult things.
I believe sex is dangerous. Sex makes babies. If you're not ready for a baby
well,
at
sex
13,
is not all that dangerous now. Let's not get carried away here.
well, look,
Okay.
sex has consequences.
Yeah,
It has
Wait,
Wait,
They're all
so
bad.
do you
They're all
guys advocate for no? Do you advocate against premarital sex?
Let's not get there. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm
We
going to
got
the
it.
land. I gotta go to agriculture. I can't. I gotta make a transition here. Listen, thank you for what you do, because I was a rage at the beginning, but I'm tame at the end. What you're doing is very important, saving our daughters and our children and saving society. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll be back.